We're all in a digital world these days. We're always in front of our computers. We're always stuck indoors. With Nukk, we're trying to help people come out a little bit and have an analog experience in a digital world to reconnect with nature. When you come out of your sauna, you can step out and be standing in your bathroom in your home, or you can step out and you can be outdoors. And what I can tell you is that no matter how cold it is, it can be dumping rain, it can be 30 degrees and the snow can be falling. You've just been sitting in your sauna and you're hot, and when you come out and you stand and you take in that cold air, it feels amazing. And we really want to help people reconnect with all that.
My name is Andy Woods, and my background is in a lot of carpentry, stonemasonry, basically all aspects of building. I come out of residential home building, which I did for about 20 plus years in Big Sky, Montana. And then moved out here to the Pacific Northwest and started building saunas, interestingly enough, because my wife wanted a sauna and asked for one. So I promised her one as a Christmas present one year. And then it took a few years to get to the project, but eventually that was the first sauna that I built. And then I had a really good time doing it. And I decided, hey, let's try selling these things. So they were very popular. And then probably after my sixth or seventh sauna built out of my garage, Shane called me and asked me about designing and building a sauna specifically for him. And this is the sauna that we came up with. This was the first collaboration between Shane and I. And then as we worked together, we discovered that we had complementary skill sets and liked each other and worked well together. And so we decided to launch Nukk, and Nukk was born.
My name is Shane Hart, and this is my partner, Andy Woods, and we're Nukk Sauna. About 2.5 years ago, I was talking to a friend of mine that's a doctor, and I told him that I wanted to get an outdoor sauna for my home. And I did a lot of research online, and I found out that all of the kits and the barrels and the things that I was coming across really weren't built in such a way that I would get an exceptional sauna experience. So my friend, the doctor, said, hey, I know this guy. He lives a couple hours south of here. Super cool guy, listens to the Grateful Dead, builds stuff out of his garage, does amazing carpentry. You should give him a call. So that was Andy, and I called him up on the phone, and I told him what I was trying to do. And I said, I've got this house, and it was built in the 1970s. It's a pretty cool location. My house was actually originally built like in Better Home and Gardens. It was one of their designs. And I'd like to somehow come up with a sauna that looks like it was also built in the 70s, but at the same time feels kind of new and contemporary in sort of a postmodern way. So we started talking a little bit about the project. I had done a bunch of research. I wanted specific bench heights. I wanted a very specific ceiling height. I wanted ventilation done a certain way. And with Andy's expertise in carpentry, he assured me this was something that we could do. So we started to collaborate on a project. We worked together for a few weeks, and once we started working together, we realized we had a really good synergy and that our skills complemented each other. He's a master carpenter, and I spent my whole life working in the natural products industry, helping people to become healthier through supplements and doing communications and marketing. So we partnered up, and this is what we worked on. This was our very first sauna that we built. This is the first official Nukk. It turned out beautifully. In a few minutes, we're going to show you the inside so you can see how it's weathered after 2 years. But this is what led us down the road into this last 100 saunas that we've worked on, and where Nukk came from. The research that I had done led me to want a very specific ceiling height. For example, I wanted an 8-foot ceiling in our sauna. The North American Sauna Society recommends a 7-foot ceiling, but traditionalists typically think an 8-foot ceiling is ideal. So we put an 8-foot ceiling in here with a reverse slope roof and a steam return to optimize the Lolu experience. And Lolu is essentially kind of the heart and soul of sauna. It's that steam and warm air which rolls off of the heater. And then I knew that I wanted my feet up above the stones. And this is something people talk a lot about in sauna culture. If you're too low in a sauna, and this is the reason why a barrel sauna is not very good, you're sitting down on the floor. And a sauna in general should be divided roughly into thirds. The upper third of the sauna is the sweet spot. That's where you want to sit. That's where you want your whole body to be to experience the best heat. That middle part of the sauna is actually a great place to be able to cool down and relax. Some people make this mistake of trying to homogenize all of the air in a sauna and make it all an equal temperature. But you'll find that over the course of a session, you actually want to sit up where it's hotter and then maybe come down and cool down a little bit. And then the biggest mistake people make is they never have high enough benches. They end up sitting low with their feet on the floor. And that's what we really want to avoid in here. So the placement of the first bench to the second bench to the upper bench was thought through specifically so that we achieved all the goals that we had regarding the thermal zones. And then the airflow was also something that was very important to us. And there are 4 different vents configured in this particular sauna so that you can adjust them and optimize the airflow so it doesn't get too stuffy or hot inside, and you can manage any CO2 that builds up. Between electric and wood, largely it comes down to convenience. The best possible sauna experience for the most part is a traditional one, and that is a wood burning stove. That has a lot to do with airflow, which again, Andy will talk about. The extraordinary thing about an electric heater is really convenience. There's a couple ways that you can turn it on. Some people get Wi-Fi, and you can simply take your phone out of your pocket and turn your heater on remote from any place you are, check the temperature, and make sure it's ready to go when you want to go. Another way the electric works is with a manual timer. For example, that's what I have. If my wife and I go out to dinner or I'm with some friends and we know that we want a sauna when we get home, instead of having to come home and build a fire, I just turn on my heater, and then I know in 5 or 6 hours, my sauna is going to be at home waiting for me, nice and warm and ready to go.
I'm a big fan of wood-fired heaters. We definitely offer both kinds at Nukk, electric and wood-fired. Personally, in my personal sauna at home, I have a wood-fired sauna heater, and I love it. Some of the things that people would consider to be inconvenient actually become part of the ritual of saunaing. So, for instance, building the fire, right? It's very intentional. I go to my sauna, I build the fire, I have to pay attention so the fire doesn't go out. There's a certain timing to it, so I build it, and I know in about half an hour I want to go back in there and restock it, the wood. And then I know if I do that 2 or 3 times, it's going to bring that sauna up to correct temperature. One of the advantages of wood-fired versus electric is a wood stove is much more powerful BTU-wise compared to an electric. So it does heat up quicker. It heats your walls up quicker. Most of them have a glass front door, and just the flicker of the fire and the sound of the fire crackling adds light and sound and texture and just really amplifies the whole sauna experience.
When it comes down to wood burning or electric too, it just depends on the person and their lifestyle. For example, we had a music producer in Los Angeles that we were working with on a situation where he is in the studio all day long, indoors, always pushing buttons. His whole world is electronic. And he said, I just want to get away from all that. And if the power goes out, I want to know a place that I can go and sit down and unplug and build a small fire and be warm and not think about being consumed by the digital world that I live in. But on the flip side of that, we work with first responders or firemen, for example. And we have a guy down in Oregon, and he's a fireman, and he said he'll be on these long shifts and he'll come home and his skin will be covered with ash or debris. And he doesn't really want to take the time when he gets home to have to go out and build a fire and make his sauna ready. He wants to take his phone out of his pocket, turn on his sauna whenever he wants, and then get home and be able to sweat out all of the toxins and the fumes and get off all the junk that's on his skin and everything he's been breathing. So it really depends on the individual about what's best as far as electric or wood burning would go. So kind of back to the first Nukk Sauna, when I contacted Andy, and at that time I was a customer and we weren't partners, I approached him from a creative background as somebody who'd worked as a creative director And I looked at the space and wanted to solve a sauna for the space. So my home being built in the 70s was boxy and had specific lines and a specific roof angle. And I wanted to try and emulate that with the sauna. So I contacted Andy and I said, I've got a location that has a nice view, and this is what my home looks like. And this is the way I want the sauna to look. I want it to feel like it's been here from the beginning. We had to consider the type of siding that we were going to use so that the siding matched the house. The color of the sauna needed to match the home. The angle, pitch, and height of the roof all needed to be done in such a way that it complemented the home. And then there was the space itself. We needed to find the perfect size deck so that we had room to kind of step out and hang our towels and not have them sitting in the rain. But at the same time, we wanted to be able to enjoy the view and have a place to sit and relax in between sessions. So I explained all this to Andy, and I think he can kind of let you know like how he solved all those needs for me as a customer, which is also the same way that we together now solve any problem a customer might potentially have and help them create a great sauna.
Yeah. So when Shane came to me with his requirements, I thought probably the best thing to do would be to come up to his house and do a site visit. So, which was very helpful. So I came up and we looked at things like his siding, his view, and then sort of the space that he wanted to put the sauna. And then we just kind of came up with a plan. So we sourced the wood to match his house siding, found the paint colors to make it all match color-wise, sort of decided that this was a great sort of area for the deck and the sauna to go on. We talked about the size of the deck. We talked about windows and glass doors and really sort of maximizing the beautiful view that we have here. And then we took a lot of things that Shane wanted as far as specs in a sauna, such as bench heights and widths and vents and airflows. And we put all that together and came up with a design. And this was our first design. One of the really interesting things about this particular sauna, I think it was the first one I had done with a sloped ceiling. So of course the roof is sloped to shed water, but the ceiling on the inside is reverse sloped. So the outside roof slopes from the front to the back, so water drains off the back. The inside of the sauna is sloped the other way. So the low point is when you walk in the door, which is right where the heater is. And then the high point of the ceiling is back where the benches are on the back wall. And that's very intentional because heat rises and steam follows the heat. So when you put steam on the stove in this case, it very quickly rises and then goes to the top and then settles down onto the bathers. And we use a couple different techniques to achieve that, but the slope ceiling and then a real small steam return at the end right above the bathers helps to roll that steam down on top of you. And if you want, we can go inside and check it out.
Let's show you guys inside the sauna. One of the challenges I had is I have a pretty large family. I've got 3 kids, my wife and I, that makes 5. And then if they've got friends or partners that come over, we can have 7 or 8 people sitting in the sauna. So we needed to find a way to have an L bench inside, which you'll see, but then have enough glass to optimize the view. And that was a trick. So we decided to go with an asymmetrical setup so you can see how the window and the door are not aligned. And that's because when you sit on the very top bench, it optimizes the view and you can see out and take in everything that's out in front of you. If we were to lower that, the view wouldn't be quite as spectacular. So yeah, let's go into the interior and I'll show you around. This sauna's been around for 2 years, so you can see the natural patina and the stain and the watermarks on the wood are what you'll end up with over time. This is the cedar that we were talking about, and the cedar holds up remarkably well. There are 3 essential steps in here. This is the top bench where you sit most of the time, and we'll actually bring your feet up and sit back like this. And then you can also see there's a secondary bench and then a lower step that comes up. And then on the front, there's that duck board down at the bottom, which is on top of tile. Tile floors are really nice in a sauna. Some people don't do that. A lot of people will just have plain wood. The low part of the sauna takes the most abuse. That's where all the water and the sweat is going to accumulate. So we think it's really important to put a tile floor in to protect the lifetime of your sauna, your floor, and it also just makes it a lot easier to clean. We've got different vents in here. This is a traditional vent system. You can see these slide and open and close. Ventilation is extremely important in a sauna. If I have 7 people in here, it can get stuffy and hot pretty quickly. So there's 2 lower vents and 2 upper vents. And we can simply slide this open and it creates airflow, and the CO2 will go in and out of the sauna at that point. Another feature in here is the roof line that we were talking about outside. If you notice, this roof itself, or the ceiling, it slopes upward and then pitches down at an angle over here. The heater is over in this corner right here. And if I were to take a ladle full of water and put water on the stones, the steam would rise up, hit the slope itself, come slowly over the top, and then cascade down over your shoulders. So when you're sitting here, there's this beautiful, incredible experience of the steam slowly moving its way down your body. And it's really soothing. There's really nothing quite like it. When it comes to steam and humidity in a sauna in general, there's something they call the rule of 200. And forgive me, I'm speaking only in Fahrenheit. I don't know the Celsius equivalent. But in Fahrenheit, an ideal sauna it sits somewhere between 170 and 172 degrees Fahrenheit. And then your humidity should be between 30 and 40%. So you'll see on the wall of the sauna, there is a thermometer and a hygrometer. And you'll look at that, and while you're having the sauna experience, you'll check it and periodically put more water on the stones of the sauna to maintain that perfect environment. Some things that are interesting in a sauna is as the temperature inside gets hotter, the air itself feels hotter. And sometimes you'll bring little kids in and they'll be blowing on each other or blowing in each other's ears because it feels like hot air. And then another thing that can be really surprising is just how hot the wood can get. There's been this sort of movement towards people wanting to sauna at extremely hot temperatures for biohacking reasons. But what we think kind of the silly thing about that is once you're at 200 degrees Fahrenheit, when you lean back against the wood, you literally can burn your back. And it's happened to me where I've gone in and I've had marks on my back, and my wife said, "What happened to you?" And it was I had the sauna too hot. Yeah, it cools down afterwards. It just feels hot initially, but then it feels a lot better after you just kind of move off it and give it a chance for it to rest. Whether you see a sauna here or you see it in any final location, there's always the finished product, which hopefully looks beautiful. And it seems like everything was probably pretty easygoing, and it's great now that it's all done. But often there's a lot of challenges getting a sauna into its final location. For example, on this project, my sauna, we brought it in on wheels. At some point, we didn't want the wheels, and one of them got bent, and we needed to transition it all the way to the deck.
So we got the sauna off the trailer, kind of wheeled it close to where its final destination was. And then there was just so much weight on the wheels, and then trying to push it up over these rocks. One of the wheels bent, and then we decided, hey, maybe we don't want the wheels anyway, so let's just take them off. But then we had to move it onto the deck itself. And this thing probably weighs about 3,000 pounds, so it was very challenging. So we ended up bringing a truck down here with a winch on it, and then running some straps around this big cedar tree, and then winching the sauna into place, sliding it into place. So I always say all deliveries are challenging, but the trick is to come up with some clever solutions and get the thing where it's supposed to be.
Yeah, well spired. After we got the sauna here in, Andy and I realized that we wanted to work together, but we needed to find a location that we could build our saunas in. And he lives a couple hours south. He actually knew some people that lived just a few miles from me, which is now where our shop is. And we decided to put our building facility down there. Um, the nice thing about that is being so close to here that sometimes we're able to bring customers over so they can see a finished sauna that's weathered and been sitting out for 2 years, and what's it going to look like once you break it in. So we typically kind of go back and forth between here and the shop. And now I have a home office here that's also just dedicated to Nukk and what we do. And Andy works out of his home in Ridgefield as well as our primary location. So let's head back over to our manufacturing facility now. After we built our first prototype, the initial sauna that we launched was called the P&W, or Pacific Northwest Classic. And that's a very rustic, traditional sauna. But a lot of our clients have more modern and contemporary homes, and sometimes they want something that has more of a modern feel, boxier, straight lines. And so after the P&W Classic, we launched the Hexagon, and then we went into the Mod. And the Mod was our first sauna, which is a boxy shape with a Shoshugiban finish, which is a traditional burnt Japanese finish. And it has a small deck, and it's very compact. And then we realized that even the Mod could be expanded on, and we could do something that had more of a panoramic view, felt maybe more user-friendly because it had an open deck space that you could stand under and be out of the rain, and then a larger footprint so more people could go inside. And that's what led us to the development of the Pano. The Pano is really kind of the best of both worlds. It has the overhang and the protection that you might get from a P&W Classic and the contemporary look and feel of the Mod. And most of them have the same Shoshugiban finish to give it that really contemporary modern aesthetic, but also to give it a traditional quality that toes the line between the old and the new.
Shane mentioned the Shoshugiban finish, which is very popular right now and probably our most popular siding style. We also can do just about anything. So we've done saunas where we paint the sauna to match the customer's house. The natural look of cedar is beautiful, so we can just do a clear finish. But like I said, the Shoshugiban has been very popular. And it's kind of a fun technique. So it's a burned technique. It's a traditional Japanese way of finishing wood and preserving it. So you burn it. We use a blowtorch, and then you wire brush it, and then you use the oil to go over everything and just really preserve things. And so we've spent a lot of time Shoshugibaning, and sort of a lot of the guys have really mastered the technique, and we think it's beautiful.
Yeah, Shoshugiban finish is really almost the same thing as if you were hiking or in the woods and you saw a tree that was struck by lightning and it was blackened and charred. It'll stay like that for a very, very long time. And Shoshugiban is similar in that it's resilient and it offers that deep black, beautiful color. I think it'd be really beneficial if we show you the actual steps that we go through to build our saunas. So let's go take a look at that. So these are some of the different saunas I was mentioning. This one right behind me is called the Mod, and the Mod was the third sauna we started building. Next to it's another Mod, and then the sauna at the very end is the P&W Classic. All of these can be customized to the exact specifications the customer would like. So if you want it deeper or shallower or wider or taller, we can accommodate all of that. We can paint them any color or finish them in any way people like. The floors that are tile inside can be customized as well. And then they're highly mobile. And when Andy does some deliveries, he can tell you more about that. He's come up with some really clever ideas so that we can get them to the locations that we need to.
Yeah, so most of our saunas, as you can see, are built on wheels, which is kind of a unique feature of our saunas. The wheels really help us during the actual build process. It's easy to wheel them around the shop or move them around the parking lot. And then a typical delivery can look like we wheel it up onto a trailer, drive it to the customer's house, and then wheel it off the trailer and then push it into place. So,
or we'll use a crane sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes. So we have cranes Sometimes the locations that we go into are too narrow and you can't get in there with a trailer or a forklift. So probably 20% of the time, I'd say, we work with different crane companies up and down the coast to get saunas picked up and actually taken over homes and dropped into place.
Yeah, so this is one that is in progress. So we just started this one. This is in the framing stage. You can see it's just built just like a residential home. So we use 2x4 construction, do techniques like California corners, everything to make a really solid structure. These guys are measuring for the glass in the window that's going to be in the front. And there's going to be a door on the side, and then of course we'll put a roof on. And eventually it'll sort of start to look like this one here. So we put the siding on, and then we can walk right in there if you want and look at the insulation and the walls. So this is a good example of the framing, and then we're in the process of insulating it. So we insulate the cavities between the studs. We use a very specific product in our insulation called rock wool. And rock wool is a much cleaner product than your typical fiberglass. And so fiberglass is what's used in a lot of residential home building, but it doesn't, in your residential home, it doesn't get up to 200 degrees. So you don't have to worry about off-gassing. But in saunas, it's a real big consideration. We don't want to use anything that has potential to off-gas. We also use a foil vapor barrier, which this is just the start of. And that's to help with moisture issues. One of the big secrets is we put insulation up and then foil, and then we create an air gap with little strips of wood, and then we put the cedar paneling on. And the air gap between the foil and the cedar paneling does a lot of good as far as heating up your sauna. It creates an effect of being wrapped in a warm bubble. Like essentially you, in a well-built sauna, you're surrounded by a heated air bubble. And so when you're in that heated air bubble, you really get this experience of heat all around you, as opposed to single wall construction that doesn't have insulation and the heat is just kind of blasting off the heater. It doesn't really warm the walls. There's no air bubble around you. And that's your heat experience is much different in that. Sitting in one of our saunas is like being wrapped in a warm blanket.
When we collaborate with a potential client, we ask them to send us photos and videos, and we look at the outside of their home, for example, and we see the type of siding that they use and the colors that they use. And we can do a couple of things. One is we could do a real contemporary look that departs from the style that they already have, so it adds something new to the environment. Or we can try and emulate the building that was already done on their property so that the sauna ties in perfectly and looks like it was always part of the house and was built when the house itself was built. And part of that process is deciding where the sauna is going to be placed and then what side the door goes on, for example. Some customers want a door on the left side of the sauna or a far side, and some people want it closer. And usually that has to do with the outside of the home, the landscaping or hardscaping they have, and where the approach is to the sauna. And then the next thing that we do is figure out where is the light source going to be, and where are the optimal places for the windows. Some people need west-facing windows. Some people need south-facing windows. Some folks need large and some need small. And then the siding itself can be done out of different types of wood. We typically rely on cedar because it's so resilient. And then it's a matter of just figuring out the best way to finish it and what type of cedar we're going to use. And Andy can probably speak more to that.
Yeah, we prefer to use cedar. Cedar is a superior wood for saunas. It puts up with water, steam, heat, all the things that challenge sauna environments. Cedar does a really good job at holding up. A lot of other woods will go through a lot of expansion contraction when it comes to heat and humidity. Cedar seems to be naturally very stable in that environment. So we can build out of just about any type of wood. We've had some customers that, interestingly enough, have an allergy to cedar, so they don't want the cedar on the interior, and in which case a lot of times we'll move to a different wood like hemlock, which is not quite as good as cedar, but also has many of the properties that cedar has. So it is a good wood to use in cedar or in saunas. Um, some woods to kind of stay away from are like a Doug fir, which is very common. You can find in a lot of hardware stores. But the knots in Doug fir, when you heat them up, will actually weep sap, making for a pretty poor sauna experience. So we spend a lot of time selecting great wood. We buy it by the semi truckload straight from the mill, and we try to get the grade A or select, some of the really good high quality wood.
One of the most important considerations with a sauna is, besides the cost, is how many people can you fit into it. And so a couple of examples that I always tell people is if you had a king size bed, for example, and you went to a dealer and they said you could sleep 5 people in this bed. You can sleep 5 people in a king size bed, but it's not ideal. And a lot of sauna companies get kind of slick with their marketing and they'll tell you it's a 4 to 6 person sauna. But what you have to think about is how big are those people? What are the body types like? Is that 4 or 6 people sitting really close together, like shoulder to shoulder? Or are these people able to relax and kind of stretch out a little bit? So we always try and be up front with people and let them know that we'll call it a 4 to 6 person sauna. But when you call us and tell us you want to put 4 to 6 people in it, you probably want a 7 to 8 person sauna so that you're not sitting in each other's lap and that you're really comfortable. And then that's what's going to affect your price ultimately. Most of our sauna projects range somewhere between $15,000 and $25,000. Something very simple without a lot of fancy lighting is going to be below 20. And then we can do things as elaborate as install light kits, for example, that have constellations up in the ceiling where you can literally see like the Big Dipper or other stars. And some of those lighting options alone can cost you upwards of several $1,000s. So we really can build it as fancy or as simple as you'd like. For example, the pano behind me would, depending on the options that you fit it with, range somewhere between 20 to 24,000, and you could comfortably fit 4 to 5 people in it. And it also has room for a person to be able to lay down and stretch out inside on the top. Another thing that's really interesting about the pano is the deck space, especially in the Pacific Northwest, or if you're in an area where it's cold or rainy. You can have enough room when you get out of the sauna to either have a seat and be out of the rain, or walk around, take a look at the view, and just catch your breath for a minute before you go back in for another session. And then over here you can see this area can be used for a couple of different things. Sometimes we actually put an outdoor shower in, and the shower is built in right here, and you're able to rinse off outside your sauna. Other times we simply put towel hooks up here where you can put clothing, a robe, or your towel. And then we've got benches to sit and relax on that you can tuck your shoes under. So we optimize the experience, and it's as comfortable as possible.
One thing we've come to realize in our building saunas experience is that half the experience of taking a sauna is actually outside of the sauna. So you cook yourself and you get yourself nice and hot and sweaty, and then you need some relief, right? So you walk out the door, and then you just feel really good because you're cooling down. And so having a place to sit or a cold shower to rinse off on is actually a very important part of the experience. So we've come to realize, and we recommend sort of setting up outside your sauna is just as important as inside the sauna, and you want a comfortable experience both in and out of the sauna.
Yeah, you should think about the exterior of your sauna as much as the interior. And a couple of tips that I'll give you: when you're thinking about getting a sauna and you have some dimensions in mind, take painter's tape or masking tape and put a box on the floor that are the exact dimensions of the sauna you're thinking of, and then get some beach chairs and set them inside that box, and then sit down with somebody and determine if that amount of space feels reasonable. And more often than not, people will want to go a little bit larger. And then you can also do the same with your outside area. Walk it off, tape it off or rope it off, set up some benches, and really do the best you can to live in the space and understand what that would be like before you create it. So for the most part, our pricing structure is really based off of two things. One is the overall footprint or size of the sauna, and the other one is the features. Something like this behind me, for example, is going to be around 17,000. Same with the one next to it, and then the one at the end over there is going to be closer to 20. Um, these are built to certain specifications. If you increase those specifications, then the product goes up accordingly. If you were to add another couple of feet in either dimension on this particular product, it could go up a couple of $1,000s. And if you added more elaborate lighting or mechanical ventilation, that could increase the price as well. So if you're interested in a sauna or an outdoor shower or something like this, we would love to be able to work with you and how to collaborate and show you what we can do. Just please come and check out our website, nukksauna.com. Follow us on Instagram at Nukk Sauna, and we look forward to hearing from you.